Everybody wants to know the secret. I'm 104 years old now, and everywhere I go, people lean in close and ask me, Mr. Elias, what's the secret? How did you live so long? How are you still smiling? They expect me to say green tea, or long walks at sunrise, or a glass of red wine before bed. Laughter. Yes, I do those things. Of course I do. But that's not the secret. You really want to know? Come closer. I'm going to tell you something it took me more than a century to truly understand. The secret is this. You choose. Every single morning your eyes open, you choose. Joy is not something that knocks politely on your door. Joy is something you decide to let in. Most people never realize that. They keep waiting. They wait for the promotion. They wait for the perfect partner. They wait for the bank account to grow. They wait for life to calm down, and some of them spend their whole lives waiting. I stopped waiting. I chose. And that is why I am still here, still laughing from my belly, still grateful for the way sunlight hits the wall, still whispering thank you for another breath. But don't mistake my smile for an easy life. My mother died when I was 6. Pneumonia. I still remember the sound of her breathing, shallow, fragile, like a candle about to go out. I remember my father holding her hand, pretending not to cry. 2 years later, in 1932, my father brought us to Canada with $50 in his coat pocket and hope stitched into his silence. We slept in a single room in a crowded house in Halifax. 8 people, 1 stove, winters so cold they felt personal. By the time I was 11, I was working in a textile mill beside my father. The machines were louder than our dreams. My hands cracked and bled in the winter, but we kept going. We always kept going. Then there was my first wife, Isabella. She had auburn hair that caught the light like fire and a laugh that could fill a church. When she sang in the kitchen, even the neighbors would pause to listen. We had 12 years together, 12 precious, ordinary, extraordinary years. One evening, October 3rd, 1960, she was driving home from visiting her sister. It was raining. A truck ran a red light. They told me she didn't suffer. She was 34. I was 36 with 3 children and a silence in the house so heavy I could barely breathe. For months, I moved through life like a ghost. I burned dinner. I forgot appointments. I stared at walls. I was angry at God, angry at the rain, angry at the sound of laughter in the street. Then one night my youngest son, Daniel, climbed into my lap. He was only 4. He looked up at me with tear-swollen eyes and whispered, "Daddy, did Mommy leave because we were bad?" That question split me open. In my grief, I had forgotten something. My children were grieving too, and my anger was teaching them fear. That night, I sat alone at the kitchen table and made a choice. I said to myself, Elias, you can drown in sorrow, or you can be a father. You cannot be both. Isabella loved my laughter. She used to say it made the house feel alive, so I decided the house would feel alive again. Not because I wasn't broken. I was broken every day. Not because I wasn't lonely. I was lonely for years. But I refused to let grief be the only inheritance I gave my children. That is the first lesson. Hard times do not get to decide who you become. You do. Years later, when I was 55, the factory I had built from nothing, brick by brick, loan by loan, collapsed after a financial crisis. I stood outside the locked gates with my workers, men who trusted me, and felt like I had failed everyone. For one long moment I thought, this is where life finally wins. But life doesn't win or lose, it just keeps moving. So I moved with it. Now let me tell you about Miriam. It was 1988. I was 66 years old and had lived alone for nearly 3 decades. I told myself I was done with love. I told myself that season had passed. One Sunday, I went to a community fundraiser, not for romance, but for the homemade apple pie. I swear that's the truth. And across the room I saw her. She wasn't young. She wasn't trying to be. But when she laughed, her whole body laughed. Her eyes shined like they were carrying their own sunrise. Her name was Miriam Clark. She was a retired school teacher. When I asked her to dance, people stared. An old widower and a strong, independent woman who had never married. In a small conservative town, that was enough to start whispers. Even my eldest daughter questioned me. She said, "Dad, what will people say?" I told her gently, "They will say something no matter what I do. So they might as well say it while I'm happy." That's the second lesson. Other people's opinions are not your prison unless you lock yourself inside them. Miriam and I had 29 beautiful years. We traveled by train. We argued about books. We held hands at the grocery store like teenagers. She passed away 3 winters ago, quietly in her sleep, 93 years old. I lay beside her that night and felt the old ache return, the familiar, merciless ache of goodbye. I still miss her when I hear jazz on the radio, but I can almost hear her voice saying, "Elias, don't you dare turn love into regret. We had our time. Be grateful." So I am. You want to know what makes me happy now? Morning light across the kitchen floor, the smell of cinnamon in my coffee, my great-grandson Noah asking me the same question 5 times because he loves hearing my answer. A warm blanket, a stranger holding the door open. That's it. That's the treasure chest. I don't need a mansion. I don't need applause. I don't need another decade. Here's the secret inside the secret. I could have lived like this at 35, at 45, at 65, but I was too busy chasing more money, more recognition, more security. I thought happiness was waiting at the finish line. It isn't. Happiness is sitting quietly beside you while you search everywhere else. That is the third lesson, and the most important one. Happiness is not at the end of something. It is inside this moment, right now. If you look around tonight, you will find something worth loving, something worth thanking God for. 3 things. Start with 3. The way your child sleeps, the way your mother says your name, the simple miracle that your heart keeps beating without asking permission. Gratitude is not natural at first. It is practice. It is discipline. It is a decision repeated until it becomes who you are. I am 104 years old. I buried my mother. I buried my wife. I buried dreams. I buried friends. And yet every morning I wake up and whisper, "Thank you for one more day. What shall we do with it?" That is the secret. You choose joy, not because life is gentle, it is not. Not because nothing hurts. Everything does at some point. You choose joy because misery steals time, and time is the only thing you cannot earn back. My mother once told me when I was small enough to sit on her lap, "Elias, life is a gift, even when it doesn't feel like one." I didn't understand then. I didn't understand at 40 or 60. But now, with more years behind me than ahead, I finally do. Life is not perfect. It is fragile. It is unfair. It is unpredictable. And still, it is beautiful. With all the tears, with all the scars, with all the goodbyes. Beautiful. You get one life. One. So stop postponing your happiness. Stop waiting for the chaos to disappear. Choose joy now. Today, while you are still here and still able to choose it.